Hi, Banana Recap here. Today I am going to explain a film called The Handmaiden. Watch out and take care. A young Japanese woman, Sake, says goodbye to the women on her doorstep. It's not her family, but she grew up among them and has fostered dozens of new children. One of the girls seeing Sake off is crying, but her tears are not from sadness at the parting, but from the fact that she would like to be in her place. The car takes Sake far away from home. Not only does she manage to grab a bite to eat and hide all her jewelry, she also gets a good night's sleep. Even as the car pulls into the gates of the manor, the driver says Sake can continue to sleep. Her new mistress's estate extends so far that there is still a long way to go before they reach the threshold of the castle itself. The girl is greeted by an old Japanese woman, Sosaki. She tells the new maid of her duties, the rules of the house, and that from this day forward her name is Tamako. Her task is to serve her mistress and do everything the family asks of her. But let's go back a little to understand how Sake, now Tamako, ended up here. The girl grew up and stayed to work in a private orphanage. The owner of the orphanage, in addition to stealing, raised orphans to sell to wealthy Japanese families. Sake herself nursed these babies and also took jewel-stealing lessons from her teacher. And by her small age, she knew the value of money well. So when a friend of the family, the count, offered the girl to participate in his scam and take a job with Hideko to help him marry her and take possession of her inheritance, Sake, without a moment's hesitation, only demanded to raise the remuneration offered to her. The girl's only dream for years was to leave the poor area of Japan and start her life with a clean slate. And now she is in a strange estate owned by a young Hideko, who also has an uncle who wants to marry the girl despite her kinship in order to get his hands on the fortune. Sosaki shows Tamako her sleeping place, which is directly opposite the mistress' bedroom. The girl goes to bed but is awakened hours later by the screams of Hideko, who has been having a nightmare. After introducing herself, the new maid gives the mistress a spoonful of sokei, hugs her, and sings her the lullaby she used to sing to the inmates in her old orphanage. Before falling asleep, Hideko tells the maid that her nightmares are due to the cherry tree under the window where her aunt, the mistress of the manor, once ended. Though Mako begins her service and quickly grows close to her mistress. After a while, the maid begins to prepare Hideko for the arrival of the count, who poses as a wealthy and educated aristocrat and hopes to marry the rich girl and later send her to a home for the mentally ill, and to help him carry out his insidious plan is a fake maid. Hideko meets the guest and quickly falls for his tricks. The man goes to great lengths to make the lonely rich woman fall in love with him and convince her to run away with him, leaving her old uncle with nothing. And the maid does a pretty good job of helping in this task. When necessary, the maid leaves the mistress alone with the count. And at night the girl demonstrates to her mistress what awaits her in the bedroom with her young husband if she agrees to the marriage. After 2 weeks in the manor, the count pretends to leave. But he stays close to the estate, waiting for Hideko and Tamako, who has run away with the mistress. When uncle is away on business, the girls leave the castle at night and take the ferry to Japan with the count. There, without delay, the man immediately married Hideko and began doing everything in his power to drive her insane as soon as possible. Once again, he was aided in this by his fake maid Tamako. One day, the man tricked his wife into going to the clinic, and she was about to be taken to the ward where she would spend the rest of her life. Tamako hugged the mistress goodbye, preparing to say goodbye to her and receive her fee. The orderlies grabbed the mistress herself, mistaking her for Hideko, and the countess herself tearfully confirmed that the millionaire had long since mistaken herself for the mistress. Thus the girl, who had planned to deceive everyone, finds herself deceived and abandoned by everyone herself. Back to Hideko's childhood. The princess was a difficult, naughty girl, and the only person she loved and accepted was her aunt, the sister of her mother who passed away early. She was the housekeeper and her uncle's greatest joy. In the evenings he would invite selected aristocrats to the house, and the woman would read frank books to them. Young Hideko was also taught the same. When the aunt was found in a cherry tree, the niece took on the role of storyteller. And it was at one of these evenings that she met the count. The con man sneaks into the young countess's bedroom and offers her a deal. He helps her escape from her strange uncle and his peculiar books. The girl, in turn, shares her fortune with him. But to make sure her uncle never finds her, the pair come up with an ingenious plan to find a new maid that no one would ever look for, and send her to a special hospital under the name Hideko, and give her name and papers to the countess, who can start a new life without fear of being caught. From the first day the maid appears in the house, the countess uses her to her advantage, thinking she is helping the Count win a foolish rich woman. Hideko and the man prepared a plan to free her. All accidents turned out to be only details of the plan, and even Hideko's worries about her inexperience turned out to be a well-thought-out episode. After these nights, Tamaka hesitated in her decision, and learned that her mistress had planned to stop her life on the same cherry tree as her aunt had once done. The maid confessed everything to her, from her appearance in the house to the Count's plan to put her in a home for the mentally ill. Hideko also told her the whole truth about the fact that in fact the servant was not an accomplice to the crime, but a victim of it. And in the home for the mentally ill it should have ended up being her. Realizing that they couldn't do it themselves, the girls enlisted the help of the mistress of the orphanage where Sake was brought up, giving her a gold bracelet as an advance payment. After the maid was led away to the clinic building, Hideko and the Count went to an expensive restaurant for dinner. Sitting at a table, the con man proposes that the rich woman marry again, only this time for real, and leave for Russia, where a posh house of a noble Russian family is for sale. The man hints that the victim of their plan will not stay long in the hospital, and tomorrow everyone will know about her death. In the meantime, a fire breaks out at the hospital. While the staff is running around in a panic, Sake removes the shackles with a hairpin and wears a hazmat suit, escaping through the burning corridor. At the inn, Hideko pours 2 glasses of red and into one of them drops a few drops of a potion from the bottle she received as a wedding present from the Count. It was her condition to have something to end her life instantly if her uncle does find her. But the man proves too cautious and takes his time drinking from the glass. Instead, he begs Hideko for 10 minutes of intimacy, hoping to win her over. But the swindler continues to play, feigning delight at the Count's caresses. She sips from his glass and, through a kiss, treats him to a drink. After a couple of minutes, the man collapses without feeling, and at this point Hideko takes all his money and runs off to town, where Sake is already waiting for her at the given address. The Count regains consciousness and sees the samurai waiting for him on the bed. They take him to his rich uncle who has already received a letter from his niece. He is waiting for the Count to arrive so he can hold him responsible for the damaged books, the runaway girl and other incidents. The owner of the book collection invites the frustrated millionaire to his cellar, where he keeps another of his prized possessions, better wooden Japanese looms, for communicating with undesirable people. The uncle is more than happy to show the Earl how they work. The girls, on the other hand, disguised as a married couple, arrive at the station, where uncle's men are snooping around everywhere, looking for runaways. The uncle himself continues his conversation with the prisoner in the cellar. He demands intimate details of his short marriage, but the Count agrees to the tale on one condition. The old man gives him a light from the Count's private cigarette case. The old man does not resist, unaware that the cigarette case contains only poisoned cigarettes, and that their smoke will very soon take both men with it. The girls, on the other hand, have been lucky enough to get on the ferry, and are off to a new life, away from Korea, where all their ordeals have happened. What do you think of the film? Share your opinion in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.